Three.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Amy Olenichek. I am the founder and director of the PATCH program. PATCH stands for Providers and Teens Communicating for Health. And really everything that we do is to ensure that young people are part of a generation that is able to be their healthiest selves, their healthiest and most well selves. We do a lot of education throughout the state. So we employ, here in Wisconsin, we employ about 40 youth every year, so mostly high schoolers, some a little younger, some a little older, to do the work that we do, to do that work in partnership with us. And one of the things out of many different things that we do is advocacy work. And so that's really what I'm here to talk about with you all today. Is really focus on advocacy, what that means, how we do advocacy, and how you can do advocacy in your everyday life as well. Just a little bit about PATCH here. Oh, there we go. Hold on, back it up. I show you this graphic really just to illustrate that we do a lot of things at PATCH. We work in a lot of different spheres. So we have young people that work directly with healthcare providers and healthcare systems to ensure that when a young person shows up in the healthcare system in any capacity, that they are able to receive the best quality of care possible, that they are able to access that care, that they are able to be open and honest with those healthcare professionals, and that they are really received in a way that is inviting and invites them back in the future. We also we have young people that work with, due to peer-to-peer education within schools and other community areas, really empowering their peers to start to own their own healthcare experiences, to recognize that young people have both rights and responsibilities in the healthcare system. So we talk a lot about confidentiality rights, about how to access care on your own, how to start that transition from pediatric to adult care. So really recognizing that young people, that's a scary and hard transition to make. And so we find ways to encourage young people to start somewhere, start making their own appointments, start going into their office visits on their own, and kind of exploring what it means to get healthcare really responsibly as you age. We also work with parents and families, making sure that caregivers know how to support young people and making sure that they're able to be their healthiest selves. And then we also work in the policy sphere. And so we work to make sure that when decisions are made, particularly here in Wisconsin, when decisions are made, we want them to be made in a way that listens to the needs of young people, that takes the adolescent concerns and preferences and experiences into consideration when making rules. So today we're going to talk both about what I like to call big P policy and little p policy. Neither of those are scary, but I think sometimes people think that big P policy means, having to lobby and work with legislators, and that seems scary and overwhelming. We're gonna dispel that myth right away. But I also want to stress that we also think of policy as little p policy, which is thinking about the rules that kind of govern your everyday life. So, whether that's in school, a dress code, that's a policy. Bullying policies are in every school, or should be in every school. Those are just things that really make sure that we are living and working and going to school in environments that are able to keep us safe and well as a group, as a society. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how we craft those policies and change those policies and what that means. But like I said, advocacy and policy, those words really bring out all the feels. And I know this from experience. So I was not always 100% comfortable with doing advocacy and with the idea of being somebody who is active in changing policies. I definitely felt a little bit more like this little guy on the right, where as somebody that does not enjoy confrontation, the idea of doing advocacy felt scary and kind of outside of my box. I've moved to be a little bit more like the little gal on the left here, that I think sees the excitement and the power and the energy that by finding your voice and really speaking up for yourself and your needs and the needs of your peers can really be thrilling and exciting. And as a change maker, you can feel powerful and like you're crafting a better future and that you're part of that change. And advocacy opportunities are all around us. So again, this is kind of a recognition that policy doesn't just happen in our Capitol buildings. There are systems and there are decisions that govern those systems everywhere. So whether that is, where we can ride our bikes safely, again, within high schools, there are so many policies that guide an everyday high school, like what credits you need to take to graduate, what the dress code policy is, what time school starts. Somebody made a decision to say that your school is going to start at the time that it starts. That was a decision maker. And those are the folks that we need to influence through policy to make sure that the services that we are being offered work for us. The healthcare system is a big place that Patch really focuses on advocacy, recognizing that young people historically have not had a voice in the healthcare system. You know, that healthcare was kind of provided to them instead of with them. And really historically with all of us as patients. So really, you know, centering the patient voice and celebrating a patient's ability to make sure that the healthcare system works for them is a big part of what we do. I'm going to start talking through advocacy with a couple true stories. So all of the pictures that you'll see in my presentation are all Patch young youth that have gone through our programs. They're all dear friends of mine at this point, and their stories are all true. So I'm just going to share a couple success stories of folks that have advocated and had success in that. The first person I'd love you to meet is Henry. Henry was a student, so Henry is now just graduated from Brown University, but in high school, Henry realized that his lunch period was 20 minutes, and it was broken up into 2 lunch segments. I think there was a freshman only lunch segment of 20 minutes, and then another segment that was like everybody else for 20 minutes. He realized by his sophomore year that this wasn't working well. So not only were his peers like exhausted and shoving down food and not eating healthy because they didn't have time and not taking a break, so their afternoons were fuzzy and they weren't learning as well. But he also realized that the teachers felt the same way in a lot of respects, where they were hoping to have students come in and do a makeup quiz during lunch, but there just wasn't time for that because they also had to eat and they had to make their phone calls, and it just wasn't working. So Henry started, he first tried to define the problem, and so he got, you know, kind of did a survey of a lot of people's experiences and recognized that it wasn't just he that, you know, it wasn't just him that hated this policy, but that it wasn't working for a lot of folks in his school. So he went to the principal, who agreed and recognized, like, yeah, this seems like a problem. He also went to the student council and made it a student-led project. And so they got together as a student body and put together, again, surveys and petitions and just sort of gathered data that demonstrated a need for change. The principal heard that need and assigned an assistant principal to form a group of both adults, administrators that worked in the school, and students. Over the course of a couple years, they ended up changing that lunch hour. So they ended up making it 1 40-minute block. So it did not bleed into any other school programming time, but that teachers then had 20 minutes where they had their own time, their own lunch, and then they had another 20 minutes where they were required to be in their classrooms to receive students for additional tutoring or help or makeup quizzes, and it worked really well. So that is a lasting change. That change is still in effect today, and seems to be working a lot better for a lot of folks. And I gave you kind of a lot of details just to demonstrate the need for a lot of those steps. So advocacy is different than complaining about something. It's different than just saying, this isn't working for me, I don't like this. But it really is a process of identifying, is this a need? Is this something that would be better changed? And then if so, how do we create a solution collectively that works for as many folks as possible, right? And specifically those that are struggling the most, we want to make sure that it's supporting those folks as well. And I think Henry's success story is just a great example of that. This is one instituted of the first ever gender neutral homecoming court at their high school. And that same year, one actually was elected homecoming queen. It was a super popular idea, very successful, was really created a much more inclusive environment in one school. And this is Emily. Emily came to me a number of years ago after an experience with pretty severe bullying in her high school. And when she went and kind of looked into the policies that existed within her school to protect her from both sexual harassment and religious harassment, realized that the protections weren't very good. So she didn't have a lot of support from her administration. She felt very much re-traumatized when she tried to report the bullying. and ended up leaving school, taking kind of an extended work study. And during that time that she would have been in school, created a committee to help change the bullying policy at her school. So I actually went with Emily to do a presentation to her school board in which she told her story. And at the end of that, they invited her to be on an ongoing committee to improve the bullying policy in her school. So all of these stories are really driven, as you can see, by personal experience and a recognition of like, this isn't working. Our executive director at our organization, Sarah Finger, loves to say, if you're not in the kitchen, you're on the menu. And I love this thing because it is absolutely true. If you are not part of the conversations, if you are not being a part of the decision-making process, then decisions are still going to be made. They're still going to be made every day, but you'll just be on the menu, and those decisions will be happening to you instead of with you. And so I ask all of you to kind of think about, do you want those decisions to be made with you or to you? That is a choice. Some people definitely go through life just kind of going with what other people say and following those rules and not thinking twice about it. I definitely would argue that we would all be better off if folks' stories were heard, if we were sharing our experiences and learning from one another. I think we could collectively get to a much better place if we were making sure that these decisions were happening with us rather than to us, especially young people. So again, that's where I've seen, youth voice just sort of not valued in conversations of decision making. We have historically made decisions for our children, when they're little. As a mom, I can tell you, when they're little, you're making all their decisions for them. And so it's a difficult transition for many adults to start to value those experiences of young people and hear them and make decisions really based on what would be better. So think about that question. And if you decide you do want to be part of the process, there's always someone to talk to you about things that you care about. So you can advocate with your family. You can go to your family and say, hey, this Friday night family movie night isn't working for me because this is when my football games are at school, and I would like to shift family movie night to be Thursday so that I can both spend time with you all who I love and go to my Friday night football at my high school, whatever that is. So there are policies even that govern our families and the way that we all live together. You can do that with your friend groups, with your neighbors, teachers, and principals. Like I said, a lot of the young people we work with do successfully create change within their schools by creating strong relationships with those decision makers and leaders within the schools. Because that, in many cases, is your whole world, that environment. This year, home life and school life are all mixed up together, but there's a lot of policies that are going to come up there, right? When we work on our remote schooling, from where, who accesses Wi-Fi computers at what time. There's a lot of decisions to be made, and I think it's incredibly important that we all are part of that conversation. This is just not an exhaustive list, but it does go to show that we have a lot of different levels at which we can create change, all the way up to really, federal government decisions that are being implemented in our country that are really guiding the principles, morals, values of our country and even worldwide. So I'm just going to quickly show you who makes policy happen in Wisconsin. And in full disclosure, this was I'm repurposing this presentation as a speaker that learned about this opportunity to chat with you all just yesterday. I have not updated it. So I'm certain that these faces have changed within I think the last time I gave this was a number of months ago. And so maybe a year ago. So please know that's just like a disclaimer that this maybe isn't an immediate snapshot in time, but it will kind of give you a sense of that there is somebody in each of these positions making these decisions. So we have a governor. This is still accurate, right? Our governor is Tony Evers. At present, we have in Wisconsin 132 legislators. So these are folks that we vote for to represent us. These are the folks that are making the decisions of how our state is going to be run and how our communities are going to be run. We have 33 senators and 99 assembly representatives in our community. And these numbers, again, if they're not exact, I think they're very close still to this day. So we have, what I will point out here is that we have way more men than women for example, in our decision-making process. So gals, like, let's step up and we can make these decisions as well. A big part of my passion is ensuring that women are really working towards elected office and holding those positions and running for office. You know, it's hard to do as women. We're balancing a lot of different demands, but I think it's incredibly important that our voices are heard and that, again, decisions are being made with us and not to us. At the time, so this was, again, at the time that I put this together, it was about a year ago. I do not think it's much higher, but only one representative in the Senate and 2 in the Assembly had any kind of healthcare background. So that is out of those 33 and those 99 people, only 1 and 2 had any type of healthcare background. And that doesn't always mean, you know, you still want to know what those folks are voting for. I know years ago we had a nurse in the Assembly that was fighting against the smoking ban, and that was really shocking and surprising. You would hope that your healthcare representatives that are in office would support healthy behaviors and decisions for our state, but not always. And so it's incredibly important that you know what those folks are voting for and supporting, what policies that they are pushing forward, and making sure that they are, again, that word representative means that they represent us, the people that live here. So even if you're not old enough to vote, they represent your family, right? They represent all of us that live in this community. And when we can vote, we need to be voting for folks that are representing the needs that we have, that are listening to us as community members, and that are taking our needs forward. So each I'm going to go back real quick. So we have this Senate and House, kind of 2 branches of our state legislature, and each of those have a leadership group. So we have a Republican leadership group, and we have a Democrat leadership group for each the House and the Senate. So we have, again, for the Senate, we have a Republican and Democrat leadership. I show you these slides to say that these people have faces and names, and they are humans, and they are people, and they live in our communities, and we vote for them. So a lot of times I think we think of like, oh, you know, these are nameless, faceless policymakers, but they're not. They are humans that you can call. They're humans that you can go visit. You can walk up to their office and knock on their door at the Capitol, and you know, they may even, depending on how big your community is, they may live down the street from you. So I know my representative is literally my neighbor that lives around the corner. So I could show up and knock on her door and share my experiences if I felt like being a real nuisance. But these are people, and they are making decisions for us. And so I think the more that we can connect with these folks and share, again, find avenues to share our own needs and experiences, the better that their policymaking and decision-making will reflect our needs. So at the time, this was our Senate Health Committee. So there is a health committee in each of the House and the Assembly, or the House and the Senate. And you can see, just again, these are actual people made up of people that actually intend to make decisions related to health, healthcare, and health well-being in our communities. If you don't know who represents your family, you can go to whorepresentsme.info. It's super easy. You just enter your address and zip code, and it will tell you who represents you, and you can read about them. So you can, I highly recommend everybody go there. You should quiz your family, go to your parents and other family members, especially those that are voting, that are of voting age, if they're 18 and older, and ask them, do you know who represents you? If not, have them also learn about these people, learn their names. You can look at their voting history, so you can see what they've supported. You can see what kind of decisions that they're making, what they're really into, what they're passionate about. I highly recommend you can get on almost always they'll have kind of a either weekly or monthly newsletter that is sent out to their constituents, so you can see what they're involved in, and make sure that they're, again, responding to the needs of your community and really listening to what folks have to say. So what happens once folks are elected to our leadership, to our legislature? There's really 3 seasons of action that happen in this kind of big P policy world. Those elected leaders, so there's election season. We're seeing that very clearly right now in our presidential campaign, where we are working on there's campaigning happening. So that is where folks, share. There's a lot of media happening. They're sharing with us the reasons why they think we should vote for them. And they're spending their time and energy just getting elected and just campaigning. Another sort of season of action is budget season. And so that is the time where our elected leaders are allocating where the money is going to go. So in Wisconsin, that happens every 2 years. So we have a biennial budget that is passed in the state of Wisconsin, and that shows all money that is coming into Wisconsin, where it's going to go. What are we going to invest in? Are we going to give it to schools? Are we going to give it to law enforcement? Are we going to give it to the WIC program, mothers and babies? How are we going to support our community? Where are we going to invest? That's my favorite season. I think that we, really the budget that we create as a state, I think is a moral compass for what we want to invest in, what we care about, what we are committed to changing, because we are going to put our money where our mouth is, or is that what they're saying? Yeah, put our money where our mouth is, and make sure that we are supporting what we want to support. So that is something that if you pay attention to, you can kind of see where our leadership is investing money. Says a lot about what their priorities are. And then the final season is legislative season, and that is where these policies are created and where decisions are made. So in that legislative season, there are bills that are passed. I'm not going to go through this. This is something that you can definitely learn on your own, but I'll give you the high level. What happens is that during this season, those decision makers that we elect get to make laws, right? So what will happen is a bill will be introduced. They will work with some, there are folks whose job it is to help write bills. They will introduce a bill and they will assign it to a committee. So it will either start in the House or the Senate, depending on who authored the bill. Then what happens is there are committee hearings held. So that is a time in the process of a bill where we all as constituents get to have a say in whether we support or don't support that legislation. One example, I had a number of young people, high schoolers, come with me for a couple different really important bills. And over the years, one was the Healthy Youth Act. So this was a bill that was saying that if sex ed was going to be taught in Wisconsin, that it should be comprehensive, medically accurate, and age appropriate. And that was actually a very controversial bill. And so we had a lot of young people that were showing up to get that law passed, and we were successful. It was passed, unfortunately, 2 years later. It was also repealed, and so it is no longer a law because our decision makers changed. And the new folks that we elected decided to remove that from a law and say that we didn't want to have that as a policy in Wisconsin. Another one, the bathroom bill, many people have heard about in terms of trans youth using the bathrooms at school. That was a bill that a lot of the young people I worked with were really passionate about making sure that we have safe and inclusive environments in schools. And so a lot of the young folks I work with came up to the Capitol and attended the hearing. And at the hearing, you can give oral testimony, you can give written testimony. So if you can go and sign up and share your story. It is a wonderful way to really influence the way that folks vote on a bill. A friend of mine also gave oral testimony at the hearing a number of years ago for a bill called the Compassionate Care for Rape Victims Act, and she shared her story as a sexual assault survivor, and actually swayed the legislature enough that after many years of fighting for that bill passed, really explicitly based on those experiences that she was willing to share. So there are spaces in which we can have a tremendous effect on whether a bill becomes a law or not. Once that hearing happens, the committee that is in charge of that bill votes. If it passes, then it goes over to, or goes to the floor. And if it passes on the floor, which means just like all of the either House or Senate are voting on this bill, then it moves over. So if it started in the House, it moves to the Senate and the whole process starts again. If it started in the Senate, moves to the House and the whole process happens again. And then our governor also has the ability, again, to either veto that bill and say, just kidding, I went through all of that, but I'm going to just veto the bill entirely and we're going to have to start from scratch. or they can pass it. And if the bill passes, then it becomes a law in Wisconsin. That's big P policy, right? That is like changing way something is done in all of Wisconsin. But it's not that scary and it's not that hard. And so I think when folks start imagining themselves doing advocacy at this big P policy level, it feels overwhelming. But I'm here to tell you that it is literally just talking with another human that lives here in Wisconsin. It's just common sense. So they are people just like me and you. They are often just doing their best to learn about issues. So if you can imagine, a policymaker's job is to, in many ways, know everything about everything. And so they have, they're asked to make decisions related to transportation, related to healthcare, related to any decision, that could possibly be made in our state. They cannot be experts on everything. Very often, you are going to be the expert. So if it's a decision that is impacting young people, adolescents, high schoolers, middle schoolers, that is probably you. You are the expert, not that elected official. They have not been in school for a very long time. They don't know what it's like, and you're going to have a much better sense of what is needed and what the needs are among you and your peers than that person. So their job is to listen to you. That's why we call them representatives. They represent the voices of the people that they serve. If they are not hearing from you, they cannot represent you. So if they're only hearing from a certain few people, that's what they're going to think that the reality is in that situation, and that's what they're going to represent. So I encourage you to think about who are the decision makers in your life. So definitely those big P policy representatives are some of those people, but also, again, your teachers, your principals, maybe your neighborhood older person that's making decisions on like whether a dog park goes in your neighborhood or a playground. Make relationships with those people, know who they are, know what decisions they're making, and don't necessarily wait until you need something from them or you want them to, vote a certain way or do a certain thing before they know you. Because if they already know you, they'll have trust in you as an expert. They'll know that you are committed to ensuring a healthier future for young people, and they'll be more likely to listen to you, right? We all have that where we're more likely to listen to our friends and the people that we know well and already respect. When you are working with a decision maker, make sure that you know what you're asking for, be specific, give personal examples. This one, as I kind of mentioned before, is incredibly powerful in changing people's minds and hearts. So, when you're able, share those personal experiences, make the decisions personal because they are personal. All of the decisions and policies that we're making affect us on a day-to-day basis, but it's hard to see often how it affects people unless we're telling stories and sharing stories about how it's affecting us. If you have expertise, use it. You've taken this amazing course this summer or experience that you've had, and you've learned a lot that gives you a lot of expertise. So use that, share what you've learned, share those experiences, and utilize that when it's appropriate. Some of these other ones are just kind of common sense. So being concise and respectful when you work with decision makers, as you should with anybody, being patient, but also persistent. There's a really great balance there. Knowing that change can't happen overnight, but it only happens after some persistence as well. So keep that up, stay positive. Change can definitely happen and does happen. So I'm going to ask you to just take a minute, and I'm just going to kind of be quiet here as I will just sort of read some statements. I invite you, if you are able and comfortable doing so, like close your eyes for a minute, just take some personal space. And I want you to take a moment to just dream about what your vision for health and life might look like. Think about what motivates you. And think about why being healthy, having healthy policies, why is that important to you? Maybe is that important to you? What do you vision your future to look like? And then I'm going to ask you to decide if you want to have a say in achieving that vision. As Sarah would say, do you want to be in the kitchen or do you want to be on the menu? Think about whether or not you are okay with other people making big decisions that might impact your life and your health without your input. Or do you want to have input? Do you want to be in the kitchen and create that change? That is a decision we all get to make. So take a minute and decide for yourself, in which realm do you want to make sure that your voice is heard? And then our final, so let's dream and decide, and you can open your eyes and come back with me. I think the last thing that we then need to do is we need to figure out what is, so yeah, if you've decided, like I've envisioned my future, I want to have a say in it, I decided this is important to me, what do I do about it? That's the big question mark that a lot of folks have. Even when we're passionate about something, we're not really sure what to do. So I'm just going to give you some ideas on things that you can do right now, right away. This is my little menu of ways to make a difference. And we're going to start with appetizers. I'm going to move to like family style things big things that you can do. But some easy things. One I already mentioned, find out who represents you and your family. Go to whorepresentsme.info, check it out, make sure that everybody in your family knows who represents you and see whether or not they are making decisions that support the community that you want to live in. Are they funding the things in your community that you want to fund? Are they giving money to your rescue folks, to your fire departments? Whatever that is for you. I encourage you to even think about putting their contact info into your phone, right? So when something comes up, you know who to call to say, hey, I liked this or I didn't like this. And I will say that can be even scary just calling somebody to say, I want you to vote for this or not vote for this, or I saw this happen in our community. I wanted to talk to you about it. A trick that I will share with you, and this is something that I still do sometimes when I'm feeling shy or uncertain, is you can call after hours and get a voicemail. And you can just leave your voicemail. And what happens is the next day, that representative will come into their office and either they or one of their staffers will listen to messages and they have to record all of them. And so if you leave a message and you say, my name is Amy, I live in your district. I just wanted to let you know I'm really in support of, I don't know what the decision is, that we fund our schools so that every person in our community can have a Chromebook and Wi-Fi for this school year. They will have to mark that down and record that because that is something that is coming from one of their constituents, somebody who they represent, and they must record that they heard that. So that counts, that matters. And you don't have to talk to anybody directly. You can just talk to a voicemail, which is sometimes an easier spot to start. You can also, so you can follow Patch. Patch is actually a program of a nonprofit organization called the Wisconsin Alliance for Women's Health, which is a policy and advocacy organization. And we follow all bills that affect the lives of women and children and families in Wisconsin. And we have on our website, you can look up bills and see how people voted on them. And you can connect with us on all of the social medias. You can also follow Patch and other advocacy organizations on social media and start to sort of see what organizations are advocating for and think about how you feel about those issues. And certainly when you're old enough, register to vote. A little bit bigger, if you want to spend a little bit more time, like I said, you can look into how your current legislators voted in the past on issues that you care about. Then call or visit to discuss those issues. Think about what you're passionate about. Make sure you're being heard. Writing a letter to the editor of your local newspaper is a great way to both share your story and make your voice heard. And again, that's something that is read by others. You can kind of create a ripple effect by sharing that experience. With a lot of our news outlets being online right now, is often easier to get a letter to the editor published. There is more space for that. And you can also, I'm sure you have seen, I'm sure everybody in your life is conducting their own advocacy on their own social media, right? That's another platform that we all have and we all use daily to share how we think and how we feel about things. We have an election season coming up right now. You can help folks vote. So even if you can't vote yourself, you can help others sign up to vote, register to vote, make sure that they know how to get to the polls, or that they are safe getting to the polls, or especially this year, that they're requesting an absentee ballot. So those are things that we can do right now. I already, I went online. It's super easy. You can sign up to get all of your ballots for the whole calendar year absentee, and so they just show up at your house long ahead of time, and you have them. You don't have to go to the polls. You can easily vote that way, which is great. So you can volunteer to help others as well. If you really want to go all out, hosting advocacy parties is a great way to get folks together to really talk in deep conversation about some of these important policies. You can organize town halls to better understand. You can invite candidates that are running for office, have them come and talk to the community. A lot of these also are happening virtually via Zoom, as everything is right now. But give folks the opportunity to ask them questions and have them respond, so that we are intentionally electing folks that are going to represent us in our best interests. And you can share your story and create this echo chamber. So again, this is like a huge social media thing, being able to share your story, share other people's stories, share it with your family, with your friends, etc. Okay, and I've not tested if this video is going to work. I just realized as I'm sharing a screen. If not, I'm just going to send you the link. This is a really terrific video that was created in Southern California by a bunch of elementary school students, and they are advocating for more recess. And I love to show this video because I think if we can look at young, elementary school students, no, it's not going to let me play from here. I will paste that into.
I can play it from here.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
All right, let's go to. It's called Drill.
It's called Drill. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, this is just, if our young people can advocate for more recess, I just think it brings so much hope that we can advocate for so many other things as well.
Let's see.
Do you need me to stop share?
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
That is really the end of my presentation. So I'm just going to stop share, and then I can come back for questions at the end.
Cool. Just trying to figure out how to get to, down here. Okay. Is there another name?
Oh,
How to search for it? Otherwise, if you could.
I will go ahead and, I can go ahead and just put that link, and if that works, I can just put the link in the chat maybe, and folks can watch it on their own time.
Then I can bring it up, yeah.
Okay, that'll work. That sounds great. I will do that. And in the meantime, I think I just wanted to end with you are welcome to, folks are welcome to get in touch with me anytime. Again, a huge part of what I love is advocacy and helping young people navigate how to create change in their own communities. And I'm happy to help you all do that too. It sounds like that there are some community projects happening, which I think is really exciting. And I'm happy to give support and answer any questions.
Great, thank you so much. It's very helpful. Does anyone have any questions for Amy?
Nope, thank you so much for your presentation.
It's my pleasure.
Oop, it says video unavailable.
Oh no. Okay, let's see. Did I?
Oh, you know why? Because if I copy and paste it, it'll be good because part of it is not linked. Chat.
I don't know if that didn't work for me either. I think I see what I did. I just accidentally hit it twice. Okay. Let me try. Okay. I'll get it to you. I'm gonna send it one more time.
I think I'll be able to get it now too.
Okay. Yeah, so I encourage you to, again, just watch it on your own time. It is still showing video.
Wait a minute.
That's
Let me
that's
just-
the one. You got
That's
it.
it. I just need to share now. I can find it on my share screen now. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, here we go. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I was talking to my friends the other day. We all realized that play has been taken away from us. Back in the day, yes, back in the day, you guys had more time to play with your friends. So this video is from us kids. Us kids. Us kids. Us kids. Us kids. Take it. Lately, it seems like all we do is drill, 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 all the time at school. With the recess that we do have, it seems like it's over by the time we get to our friends.
It's time for recess.
Yay!
Recess is over. Time to go back to class.
I didn't even get to play with my friends. Not cool. Childhood obesity has tripled since the 1970s. Yes, the 1970s. How am I supposed to fight childhood obesity if I'm stuck in the chair most of the day? More recess gives us strong bones and lean body mass. Sometimes I want to go outside so bad. I just stare at the clock and look at the window. That's what I do. More physical activity helps us with 3 things. 1, problem solving. Who can tell me the answer to 16,000 times 155,000? 2, making good decisions. Hey, let's go pick on kids. No, this is not okay. 3, and being a leader. Look at this place. Are tests more important than my sanity? No child left behind. It should be childhood left behind. The research people say that the more you take away my recess, the worse I do in class. Really want that? Then when I get more breaks, I understand what you're saying a lot more. They've been testing me since I was 3. Can I get a break? I mean, come on. This is my time to work with others. Don't I need that when I get older or something? I just want to be a kid. I just want to be a kid. I just want to play. It's important for my development. There is more time. It's important for a calm classroom. Please, I want to explore things on my own. Please, please, please. Let us play. Just for a little bit longer.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for letting that, or for making sure that that happened. Again, I think policy and advocacy can feel so hard and so overwhelming. And I think that's just a really great description of it's not that big of a deal. It can be asking for more recess and then providing reasons that we need it, and why that's a good decision that should be made. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions at all then? Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Amy. That was great. That was an excellent message. So tomorrow, everyone, 12:30 again. And tomorrow's topic is going to be safety related to, it's going to be Lisa Ebert again, speaking to us from Aspires Hospital, and she's going to talk about lookalikes, like poisons that look like medicines, that look like candy, like everything else. So we'll learn about that and how to be safe in your home and identify those things that could be dangerous. All right? Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Take care.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.